Hello, everybody. My name is Sherry Sutton, and I am your marketing mentor. Thank you so much for being here today. Happy New Year. It's 2022. How many of us are still writing 2021? Me. Actually, I did an email this morning that said 2020. So, don't write emails until you've had enough coffee. That's my marketing advice for the day. Anyway, I'm so happy that you're here. One of the most important things that you can do in your business is to reflect on how things are going, right? So many of us, especially us, highly motivated entrepreneurs, we get super excited about what we're doing and we just go, right? Which is one of our greatest strengths, but can also be one of our greatest weaknesses, because it's real important for us to take a step back and stop and say, okay, how are things going, right? Let me look at my metrics and see if the things I'm doing are working. Let me really just take a moment and analyze my business and say whether or not things are going well. And this is true for your whole business, not just your marketing, right? And the best way to do that is something called a SWOT analysis. And SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And this is something that I do with my business. I try to do it twice a year because it's just a really great way to kind of just take a step back for a moment and say, okay, how are things going? Where am I at? What are some of my strengths? What are some of my weaknesses? And we're going to go through what are some of the questions are that you can ask yourself for each of these. I encourage you, if you haven't already, to download my workbook that goes along with this presentation. I'm actually going to show you the workbook as we're going through this presentation, but you can download it. Let me show you how. Okay, so if you go to my website, which is sherrysutton.com, and you click the Marketing Mastery School, this is where we have a ton of amazing free classes, and we're updating them all the time. So if you want some, new marketing classes, this is a great place for you to go. So the Marketing Mastery School, and then you come down here and there's a ton, like I said, a ton of free resources and classes. And there's one right here that says the How It's Going workbook. And then you can just click on that, click download now, just fill this out, and the guide will download. Okay. So here is the How It's Going workbook. And what it's going to do is it's going to take you step by step through what's called the SWOT analysis. Again, SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And what I'm going to do for the next few minutes is just give you a really high level overview of what each of these steps are. But again, I encourage you to download this workbook, fill it out yourself. If you have any questions, give me a holler. All right. I've got a little bit of a description on how to use this workbook, and let me walk you through it. So it's got 3 different columns for each of the different areas. So this is a good example. So what I give you is in the middle. I'll show you this in a sec. So I ask you a couple questions in the middle, and I want you to ask yourself those questions. And then on one side, I want you to say what your strengths are, and the other side, weaknesses. So here's a good example. So ask yourself, what was my revenue last year, last quarter, last month, right? What are our strengths? Well, we made $10,000, right? That's what's going well. That's what your strengths mean. And your weaknesses, what do we need to improve? Well, we don't need to improve anything. We met our goal. We're super, super excited. And if you're in that position, congratulations. All right. Our next question. What were my expenses last year, quarter, and month? Because revenue is fantastic, obviously, but if our expenses are higher than our revenue, we're not making any money, right? At the end of the day, this is all about making money. So we want to make sure that we're also looking at our expenses really, really closely. So for example, what are some of our strengths when it comes to our expenses? Well, we don't have any strengths. And the reason why is when we look at our weaknesses or what we need to improve, well, our expenses were 2 times our plans due to, vendor supply issues or, advertising costs. And this is one thing I'm going to get on my soapbox for just a moment. When we hear a lot of these programs where they say, make $100,000 in a month, right? $100,000 is great, but if you're spending $150,000, then you're not making any money. You're still losing money. So make sure when you're looking at programs that are going to help you with your marketing, that it's not only talking about how much money you can make, but how much money you spend, because you want to make sure that those are in proportion, because at the end of the day, you have to pay your mortgage, right? All right, I'm off my soapbox. Next question to ask yourself, do I have any cash, right? Am I in debt? How long can I survive without revenue? Especially right now, right? COVID is still going around. You can hear a little bit of it in my voice, right? We're all struggling with it. You know, we have learned over the last few years that at any moment things could change. So having a good cash reserve is good. Am I too far in debt? Just knowing where you are financially is real important. And I hate doing this, by the way. I am horrible at this. I absolutely hate this page, which is probably why I made it the example here, but it's so important for you to do if you want to run an effective business that's going to be around for the long term. So do I have any cash? So let's say for strength. So what's going well? I've got $5,000 in cash and 3 months reserve. Let's say, this is just an example. Where are my weaknesses? What do I need to improve? Well, I'm $10,000 in debt at a 3% interest rate, right? And this isn't meant to be a judgment. This is just meant for you to be able to have a real honest assessment of where things are going, right? What are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? And then what are your opportunities and what are your threats? And we're going to go through kind of some examples of what that might look like here in a few minutes. But I hope this example was helpful. So the first thing you're going to want to ask yourself is, we're going to go through strengths and weaknesses, and we're going to go through them in a couple different categories. So the first category is finance, and we just talked about that a little bit. Your next category is going to be just general questions, right? These are things like, what makes my company different from the others in the industry, right? How does my product, my service, my price, my value differently? Because if you don't have a competitive differentiator, it's real hard for you to stand apart from your competitors. How do I compare to the competition? What do I do better, right? What do they do better? I think it's really good for you to understand where your strengths are and where your weaknesses are here, and where your competitors' strengths and weaknesses are. And what's my strongest asset and weakness, both tangible and intangible? And what I mean by that is maybe my strongest asset is my marketing mastery university, right? That is a great place. It's an ongoing lead generator for me. It's a great asset that I have. It's a tangible asset, right? Intangible is my marketing experience, right? Some of my weaknesses, let's say, could be things like, I don't have a marketing mastery school and everyone else in my competition does, or those types of things. All right. So next, for strengths and weaknesses, we're going to go to products and services. So do I have a sustainable competitive differentiator in my products and in my services? How are my products different? Is my offering simple for the customer to understand and purchase? And is it easy for me to deliver, right? Because sometimes we have these great product ideas, but it's really complicated to deliver. And, we have to have all this technology, or we have to do a lot of shipping, or those types of things. So is it something that's easy to deliver? Because if it's not easy, you're not going to be able to scale. Are my products relevant in the industry? And am I accounting for new trends? And again, you want to say, yes, here's what's going well, and here's what's not going well in that area. The next place you want to think about is customers. We've got a couple questions here. Do I have a regular influx of customers? Do I have a mix of customers, or am I relying just on one or two? We usually have an 80-20 rule in our business, right? 80% of our business comes from 20% of our customers, but you always want to have a really good ongoing influx, because if you're only depending on one or two customers, something happens with them, you're in big trouble. What do I hear from my customers about my products and my services? You have to be in tune with what your customers are saying about you. And this is a great place to do that. Strengths and weaknesses when it comes to marketing and sales. So here's where you can ask yourself, what's going well when it comes to, am I doing a mix of marketing activities on a consistent basis? Social media, email, networking. Social media is not enough for you to run your business. You have to be doing other activities, because as we've seen, right, social media can go away really quickly. The algorithm can change. One of the things that we really believe in here is It has to be an integrated approach to marketing. Doing just one thing isn't going to be enough. So you need to be doing multiple things. So what's going well there, and where do you need to improve? Am I getting enough leads from my marketing efforts? And how many of the leads that come in are buying? You need to understand how many leads are coming in, how many of those are converting to actual customers, because you might be bringing in a lot of leads, but none of them are buying. So you have to just figure out what's going on. Are you either not selling correctly, right? You're not, or are your leads not the right people in the first place? Here is what I think is the most important part of your SWOT analysis, particularly for us entrepreneurs, where this is not only a place where we go to make money, but is often our passion. And we have to make sure that as entrepreneurs, this is the hardest job in the world. We have to make sure that we're happy in what we're doing and that we love what we're doing. So always make sure that the happiness factor is included in your SWOT analysis. And you won't see this in any other business book, but it's super important. So ask yourself, am I excited to go to work every day? Do I have the work-life balance that I want? And am I making the money I need to be satisfied? Because satisfied is important, right? We all want to make more money, but am I making enough to be satisfied? Because if you're not satisfied with that, at least now, or know you're going somewhere, you're going to start getting frustrated with your business. So how are strengths and weaknesses different than opportunities and threats? So now we're going to start talking about opportunities and threats. So when we did strengths and weaknesses, we talked about what's going well and what do I need to improve. Now we're going to start talking about opportunities and threats. And here's how those are different. Opportunities are where can I grow? And threats are what's blocking me. So here's a great, here we're going to go through the same exact areas, but the questions are a little bit different. And let me take you through, let's say the finance one, right? So what is my revenue goal for this year, quarter, or month, right? So what are my opportunities where I can grow my revenue? Not how it's going, because we already talked about that. But what are my opportunities to grow my revenue? And what are some of the threats that are blocking me, right? So one of the opportunities to grow might be, add speaking engagements to my offering. But one of the threats that might be blocking you is COVID, right? So that's an example. Here, let's do the next one. What were my expenses last year, quarter, and month? Right? So you already know what those are because you did them in the strengths and weaknesses. But here you can say, okay, what are my opportunities? Where can I grow and where can I get better? In other words, so when it comes to expenses, so what are some of the places, what are my opportunities to cut down my expenses? So that could be, I'm going to consolidate some of my technology. I'm going to, hire someone who's not as expensive, those types of things, whatever that might be. But what are some of the threats? What are the things that are blocking me? An example here could be, my supplier for my product continues to raise their prices. And that's a real threat for me because I don't have any control over that, right? So that's how you can talk about opportunities and threats when it comes to your expenses. And let's do another one. Do I have any cash? Am I in debt? How long can I survive without revenue? So what are my opportunities? Well, I have an opportunity this year to pay down some of my debt, let's say. So this is where you can set a goal of saying, I want to go from $10,000 of debt to $5,000 of debt. What are some of the things that are blocking me? Right? One of the things that could be blocking you are, your expenses are too high, right? Then you could go to the place before. But it's a good way of looking and seeing not just where am I now, but what does the future look like? Where can I improve? And what's blocking me? So in this in this workbook, we actually go through all of those same areas that we went through for strengths and weaknesses. So we've got some general questions around trends in the industry. We've got some questions around products and services, things like, can I package my product differently to offer a higher price, right? Is there a need in my market that I'm not meeting? Do I have the resources I need to meet the demand? And these questions are different than they were in the strengths and weaknesses, though in some places they're the same, right? Customers, we're going to look at some questions around customers and what are your opportunities and your threats when it comes to customers, your marketing and sales. And then again, the most important part of your SWOT analysis is the happiness factor, right? Am I happy? Do I enjoy going to work every single day? What are my opportunities to do more of that? And what are the threats that make that a challenge? And I'll give you an example of that because I think it's important. Sometimes we might not see exactly how this is applicable. So, do I have the work-life balance that I want, right? If your answer is no, right, you could put in opportunities. Well, my opportunity is to work fewer hours, not work at night, right? Turn off my phone in the evenings, those types of things. Well, what's the threat? Well, maybe your threat is that you've promised your clients that you're going to be available 24/7, but you really can't be, and you realize that that doesn't work. Right. And so now you're going to have to go back and establish some other types of boundaries. One of the other threats, let's say, could be something like COVID, right? That's a potential threat. Let's say we go back into, God forbid, a season where the kids come back home, or maybe you have an ailing parent, right? That's a potential threat there. And it's not meant to be doom and gloom, but it's just meant to give you a real honest assessment of where things are in your life. So I hope that you found this really valuable. I think a SWOT analysis is just a great way for you to really go back, reflect on your business, know what's happening, and then you can sort of say, okay, now I'm ready to make my goals, right? I really understand where things are. I really understand what my opportunities and my threats are. So how am I going to take that to inform my strategy moving forward? And if you're struggling to build your overall marketing strategy, I would love to help you. I have this great program called Join Marketing Made Simple. And it is a 90-day program where you spend actually a whole day with me. And actually, I think I'm going to split it into 2 days, but you get one-on-one day with me where we actually sit down and really hash out your business plan, your marketing plan, what products are you offering, right? Who is your customer avatar? What are the key messages? And we actually put together a day-by-day plan of exactly how you're going to be doing your marketing moving forward. It's an incredible program. The people who have done it have 2x, 3x their revenue. I had somebody who went through it last week and has already gotten 3 brand new giant leads with the program, with the new programs that we put together during her strategy session. So it's a great, great program. Please join us. It's super cool. If you are interested in information, you can go to my website. It's sherrysutton.com and then click on Join Marketing Made Simple. And thank you again for joining today. Please let me know what you thought. Please let me know what you think of the workbook. If you see anything that you think we should add in the future, we'll definitely do that. And be sure to head over to the Marketing Mastery School to download the workbook and to, check out all of our other free classes. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day and a fantastic 2022, and we'll see you soon.